Hello, and thanks for joining us for another entry in our Planet in Focus Decision Maker Profile series. Today I'm speaking with James Luscombe, who is a content analyst with Telefilm Canada. James, thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you, Julian.
Very glad to have you. To begin with, can you maybe tell us a little bit about Telefilm and what you are looking for from producers? I know you are a very large organization. You have many facets, but on the funding side, can you tell us about that?
You bet. Yes. So some context, Telefilm is a Crown corporation. We're a federal funder of the audiovisual industry. We also administer the CMF funds, and we've got offices in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and Halifax. So we're involved in funding the development, the production, and the promotion of the audiovisual industry. And in terms of the documentary space and what we're looking to fund, you know, on the Telefilm side, we're looking to fund feature documentaries. And the emphasis there is on feature documentaries that sort of have a director's vision that will go the route probably of being in a film festival, of perhaps being theatrical, ultimately, you know, finding a broadcaster or a streamer. But having that focus, you know, it's very much on director vision. You know, we kind of fund POV documentaries, and so that's our focus. And ones that will have a life, create some cultural conversation, and create some impact, either theatrically or, you know, on the film festival circuit, and, you know, on platforms.
Got it. Can you give a brief overview of your eligibility criteria? What kinds of filmmakers could potentially tap into Telefilm support?
Absolutely, yeah. So so in Telefilm's role in funding documentaries, there are a couple of options. First of all, well, we have a development program that does fund documentaries as well as narrative features. That is one route into, you know, starting a documentary. It's not the only one. A lot of documentaries start on just passion and filmmaker developing it themselves. So you can look at the eligibility criteria for that, and there's a bit of a track record that goes into that. We have the main development stream, and also we have a racialized stream that just closed recently. Both accept documentaries as eligible. We also have, in terms of what kind of filmmakers we're looking at, we have two different programs that can fund documentaries. Right now, there's the Talent to Watch program, and that funds first-time feature filmmakers. So it's designed as on a recommendation system where there are partner organizations that each have an educational component. Could be the CFC, the NSI, could be a film festival, Real World, Female Eye Film Festival. They nominate films to Talent to Watch, and then those go through a jury process. So I'll start there, and that's a really interesting program, and we've funded lots of feature docs. It's not primarily what gets funded, but it's a portion of them, and there've been really interesting ones that come through there. You know, they're low budget. They get a grant rather of 150,000 if they're successful, and what we found coming into that, again, are a lot of auteur director-driven projects, often that are personal, but they don't have to be. We've had, you know, a range from experimental docs that combine, you know, fiction and documentary, or narrative and documentary approaches in one. Docs that are very personal, like that are sort of telling a subjective story on the filmmaker's experience. And we've had issue-driven docs and that take a more conventional approach, that you know, they have access, you know, and usually you can imagine on a low budget like that, that you'd have to come with some interesting access if you are doing an issue-driven doc,
Mm.
and be able to pull that off on, you know, $150,000 or $200,000. So we get the gamut, and we get a lot of interesting, fresh new filmmakers through that. And that's sort of the entry-level program for narrative and documentary filmmakers.
Hmm.
Um, and then there is the theatrical doc program, and that is more for more experienced or higher budgeted
Mm.
projects. Right now, the guidelines are for, you know, a minimum budget of 400,000 if you're applying for production in those funds. And if you're applying for post-production, which you can also come in with a rough cut documentary to the theatrical doc fund,
Hmm.
um, then there is no budget minimum. You can come in with your rough cut, get funded for up to 75,000. Um, and by the way, it's 100,000, or sorry, 150,000 grant in the Talent to Watch program,
Hmm.
150 if you're applying for production in the theatrical doc fund,
Okay.
and 75 for post-production
Got it.
at the theatrical doc fund.
Okay.
So what we tend to see a bit more ambitious projects come in there, and a bit more experienced producers coming in with that. The one eligibility requirement of that fund is that you come in again with some experience
Hmm.
behind your producer, and with a theatrical distributor, Canadian theatrical distributor, attached to the project.
Got it. So is
Um,
the in the case of the theatrical doc fund, is the applicant generally the producer?
yes,
Okay. And in the case
yeah.
of the talent to watch projects, is that the same case, or do you get directors applying to talent to watch?
Well, they apply as a team. So if you're successful in Talent to Watch, you'll be incorporating as a team, writer, director, producer. So it's a bit different there. Whereas the theatrical doc fund is more conventional fund, the way we run all of our funds, all of our production funds, which is the producer is the applicant.
Got it. And you did speak earlier about um, the various channels through which talent to watch projects come to you. Uh, is it exclusively in partnership with the kinds of organizations you mentioned, or are there any other intake avenues for talent to watch?
Oh yes, good point. There are. So if you have a short film that has played, you know, in competition at a major festival, and go to the website, the Talent to Watch website, and there's a list of the qualifying festivals. If you've had a short film that's you know, gone to the big ones, you know, Cannes, Sundance, um, and gotten into competition there, then you have access to the Talent to Watch program, to an application without a partner.
Right.
So that's what we call the festival stream. So your eligibility is that you've proven yourself by getting into you know, a top tier festival.
Right. And is there um, a time window in which these application periods are open, or is it a rolling process? And you can speak both to the talent to watch process and also to the theatrical documentary program.
Yeah. So the key thing here is, you know, as we're having this conversation, new guidelines for the next fiscal year are going to be coming out, both for Talent to Watch and for the Theatrical Doc Fund. Um, so in terms of the eligibility requirements, the funding levels and stuff like that, it's probably going to stay basically the same. There will be some changes. So watch for those. You know, Talent to Watch guidelines will, you know, be out near the end of the year, and theatrical doc new guidelines, I think, at the end of November, early December. So watch for those. Theatrical docs does open in February. And Talent to Watch, it's, you know, it's a process where you should be talking to your nominating partner. If you were a graduate of Ryerson in the last 5 years, and you want to be Ryerson's application to the Talent to Watch fund, those conversations should be happening now and into next year. And then they put forth a nomination in just like late winter of next year.
Mhm.
Those nominations go into our pool, and those get seen by a jury. So the jury usually meets for Talent to Watch in May or June, and decisions right after that.
Got it. And what is the evaluation process like for the theatrical doc fund?
It's a juried system, and we usually take like a combination of internal and external jurors. And so through that, we have all of our criteria that we look at, in terms of the creative strength of the project, how well financed it is, and if it's going to be able to close financing, what the market interest is in it, what the cultural relevance is in it, what the potential audience is. So we look at all of those factors and score them, and that jury makes recommendations. The ultimate decision maker who signs off on decisions is Stephanie Azam for that program, and she's the National Feature Film Executive. And so that's the Theatrical Doc Fund. And for the Talent to Watch Fund, that jury, it's an entirely external jury. So that's basically we run it. It's a 5-person jury, and with representation across the country, and try to get as much diversity in there as possible, and try to get sort of the cohort of the Talent to Watch applicants within that jury, so that these, sometimes they're recent filmmakers who've been through the Talent to Watch Fund, and they come on as a juror. But so it's basically a peer jury of writers, directors, producers. We've also just like opened it up to industry experts. We've had good luck with having like film critics on the jury. So that's, and those decisions, they're made with basically the same criteria, but with less of an emphasis on track record, because these filmmakers are coming in without a track record. So
Right.
we're scoring potential. But basically the same kind of categories get scored. Also, I should say that in that process, in both those juried processes, theatrical docs and Talent to Watch, there's the scoring and coming to a general weighting of the projects, and then there's balancing, and that's balancing for regional, for all of the provinces, and as well as underrepresented communities, cultural diversity, gender parity. So we're looking to, like, in terms of that spectrum of decisions, have we got a balanced portfolio of projects?
Got it. Can you speak any further to the weighting that you put on those different factors? So I assume there's obviously an assessment of the kind of creative merits of the project, also maybe its market viability, and then also you mentioned the balancing. Can you give a sense of sort of how those factors might be weighted?
Well, all of these funds, they begin with weighting the creative the most, so that is this a fascinating project that represents a new subject matter or a new approach? Is this exciting? Do we see this getting an audience? So it begins there, the creative evaluation of the creative strength of the project and the proposal. That's kind of number one. That's the anchor. And the considerations of track record of the team. Track record is just all about, is this executable? The proposal they put forward, can this team do it? And do they have some success doing it? And obviously with Talent to Watch is, do they have potential to do that?
Right.
And beyond that, the idea of audience and market interest, we that's a very, very tough to weigh. We have projects that come in that sometimes it's just the current relevance of the subject matter that makes it absolutely a home run for, yes, this will get an audience, and yes, this is marketable. So that's a thing. That's sort of like reading the industry, saying, is this responding to the times? And is there a place with it for this? Is there an audience who's dead interested in finding out about this?
Got it. And in terms of the actual application packages for these streams, can you tell us a little bit about what it is that filmmakers are submitting. So I presume there is a a written treatment of some kind, and then
Mhm.
perhaps some supporting footage that they're providing as well.
Yeah, well, with for the theatrical doc fund, it's your documentary proposal, and those look entirely different. You've looked at them, and there are different approaches to doing those. Um, some are more visually driven. Some are more essayistic and driven by subject matter. Some are a character portrait. So it's a documentary treatment, 10 pages or whatever, can look very different depending on the project. So we get that. Also a director's vision, you know, also submitting past works, links to any past works, and the marketing plan. Um, so all of those are the elements. I don't have the complete list, but those are the main elements we're looking at. And also obviously financing plan, really important, and budget, and the commitment from a distributor in the case of the theatrical doc fund.
Got it.
The talent to watch fund, that's its own beast, and it's got quite a different application process. So we get tons of applications for talent to watch, and we're very happy about that. Um, but it also means that the jury job is that it's run kind of like a pitch competition,
Mm,
so that the pitch video, the 5-minute pitch video that a team does, is very important. And then second to that, synopsis and director's vision. Those are important, and just your documents showing the viability of your project, that you can do it on a low budget, and showing that you sort of understand that there's a market for this, that you know your audience and you know how to get it to them. But I would say yes, in terms of the talent to watch fund, think of it as a pitch competition. Think of it as like best foot forward, that you're in a room with a jury and you're pitching your project to them.
got it. Um, is the intake process for each of these funds generally, uh, you are receiving applications as you've described previously, or is there an element in which you sort of monitor markets, pitching events, and maybe invite projects to submit? Is there anything like that, or is it really kind of driven by people approaching?
Yep, it's absolutely driven in the case of Talent to Watch by the partners, and in the case of the Theatrical Doc Fund by the eligibility of the applicants, and they are triggering the application. We in both funds we really don't do pre-pitch meetings or anything, so they're coming into us cold, obviously, and I don't want to. I want to say, like, in terms of questions about the application, please reach out to us. In terms of strategy and what's needed for an application and getting some direction on that, we will help you through that process.
Got it.
Um, but there's sort of a level playing field with both, in that those applications, Talent to Watch and Theatrical Doc, they come into us cold. Having said that, of course, we're watching the industry. We're watching, filmmakers and their careers, and we're watching who's interesting. So that feeds into it.
Mhm.
But ultimately, those applications come in cold, and we're looking at them on their own terms.
Got it. And what is your specific role in relation to these processes?
So in Talent to Watch, I'm not on the jury, but I oversee the process, and oversee the jury, and basically I'm sort of the Telefilm person myself, along with Peggy Lanus, who really runs the Talent to Watch program.
Mhm.
We're overseeing that that the jury process is fair, that we got good jurors, and you know importantly, in that balancing, discussions of what is the portfolio. Um, but Talent to Watch, those jurors are independent.
Got it.
In terms of theatrical docs, like I said, we've had, obviously Rogers used to be a part of that, Robin Mirsky used to be a part of that,
Mhm.
and now it's sort of taken as like an internal and external process. And that's just a process of, I'm often on the jury,
Mhm.
and so I'm feeding into the scores, and uh, as are everybody else, and so it's the same sort of scoring mechanism, but it's internal and external.
Got it. So in contrast to some of the other participants in our profiles who are, more producers, they are people who are um, accustomed to getting direct pitches. In your case, if people are reaching out to you, it shouldn't be to pitch you directly, but to maybe seek your input on the process, maybe ask you questions about sort of the technical, procedures and what it is that they need to be submitting. But it's not, as you were saying before, you're not like open for pitches, generally speaking.
Right, right. Yeah, we don't do pitches for those programs, but the conversation is often, what's the right program for me? What's the right avenue? So, you know, it's good for filmmakers to tell us, what funding you've already got in place, what sort of budget level you're looking at, what's the level of experience of your team, and we can have those conversations and sort of guide what avenue you should take. And sometimes, it's we've got these programs, and sometimes it might be, oh, this is more of an arts council documentary. Go to
Mm.
Toronto, Ontario, and Canada Arts Councils.
Mm.
Maybe it's that route. Maybe it's the NFB route entirely. Maybe um, you know there are other avenues through the CMF that has great programs like the POV program, and that also can sit alongside telefilm funding, but it can also be its own thing if you could go that route separately.
Got it.
So yeah, those discussions are often just about strategy and where an applicant should be going.
Mm. Has there been any impact on your programs uh, from COVID-19? I mean, apart from the impact that we're all experiences, have there been
Yeah.
pivots or adjustments to those programs as a result?
Well, there obviously, you go to the Telefilm website and there's like the COVID-19 page where Telefilm is administering relief funds,
Mm.
and those are listed there. As far as our process, it it has really been the same process in terms of looking at these projects as there will be a time at which you know any project can be made. And so we want to stay open to creative and not sort of put boundaries up of, this is not a COVID friendly project. Well, next year it might be a project that's entirely executable.
Mm.
Um, so we're not putting any breaks or any restrictions on the evaluation. But when it comes to, we've funded a project and it's going forward, then there is a discussion in terms of, providing us with, if you're filming within community restrictions, how you're going to, stay within those community health restrictions. So it's more of a thing that comes after a positive decision,
Mhm.
and where in the current climate you're putting forward a plan, a schedule, and a shooting method that says this is executable and this will play by the rules of wherever you're shooting.
Got it. And as we begin to wrap up the conversation, something I like to ask our participants is there a film recently that has resonated with you or struck you for whatever reason that can give our viewers a sense of how you respond to film and cinema?
Yes. Inconvenient Indian at TIFF really blew me away. That was one that was funded through theatrical docs, and that it was one of the easiest yeses I think we had.
Mm.
And I was so happy to see the way it came together. Better than I expected, and so great cinematically and in terms of powerful message. Um, that was a really good news story.
Mm. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to catch up with it. I missed it in the narrow TIFF industry presentation, so I'm really looking forward to catching it soon.
I hear you. Yeah. I know. You want to pull those opportunities back, like for all the films you missed.
Absolutely. And then finally, what is the best way for people to get in touch if they have any questions for you?
um, you can email me if I don't have the answer. I can find who does, and I could, I could put my email out to your to your participants, and they could get a hold of me. But I'm glad you asked that, because we do want to, open things up and say, we often find filmmakers just haven't reached out. We've been talking to a lot of people who said, I didn't think there was a program for me, or I didn't think I would fit into the eligibility.
Mm,
So absolutely, we encourage you to reach out to us, even a talk with a coordinator on any of these funds. They can give you terrific strategic advice.
terrific. Awesome. Okay. Well, James, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and for providing such detailed info on these opportunities through Telefilm.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julian. And I'm excited about talking to the participants.
And thank you all for watching.